Hello there and welcome to the program. On this edition, we shall pay attention to the growing security tension in the southeast and south-south regions of Nigeria, occasioned by the escalating attacks on police formations, infrastructure, and personnel. Since January this year, hardly has a week passed without reports of deadly attacks on police stations and personnel in Abia, Anambra, Ebonyi, Imo, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, and Rivers states. As at the last count, there have been no less than 30 such attacks in various parts of the two regions by those who are now described as unknown gunmen. The pattern has been consistent: gun attacks, ambush and shootouts, burning of police stations, killing of police personnel, looting of the armory, destruction of police vehicles and other equipment, and helping prison inmates and detainees to escape. Scores of policemen have been targeted, killed and maimed in the process. The unprovoked attacks and killings has prompted the imposition of a nighttime curfew in Rivers State. But 5 months running, it does not appear that the police and other security forces have been able to identify and pin down those who are perpetrating these very ignominious acts of murder and brigandage on a critical state institution like the police force. Police personnel and stations have become endangered species, so much so that the men and women of the force in these two regions are afraid of wearing their uniforms in the open. The police authorities have recently barred its personnel from going on escort duties to the affected areas, apparently as a safeguard against attacks and possible fatalities. The big question is, who is responsible for the attacks? What is the motive, and to what ends? Can this lead to more criminal activities in the regions? Security experts and analysts say the apparent aim may be to weaken the police, make people afraid, and lose confidence in government. If that were to be the case, who will be worst affected at the end of it all? If and when the society's first line of defense, which is the police, is decimated. The way it is going, we are afraid this might just be the case. Is this an attribute of insurgency in the making? If it is, are the security agencies equipped well enough to deal with the challenges ahead? Or should government toe the line of dialogue with the perpetrators of these acts? Now, there is, however, another school of thought which believes that the spate of attacks is part of a grand plan to demobilize the security architecture preparatory to unleashing mayhem on the two zones by forces outside of the zones. This thinking seems to align with that which links the attacks to the politics of 2023 and the quest of the Southeast for the presidency of Nigeria. Is there a plot to discredit the Southeast especially and particularly, and put it out of contention for the presidency in 2023? All of these questions are coming up just as there were two events early in the week that could impact the worrisome security challenges in the Southeast and the South-South. The National Security Council met on Tuesday and decided on new security measures for the Southeast and the South-South. However, the details of the measures were not made public.
Lack of an effective crime reporting system. Again, the President has given direction on how to make these things effective. Already, the NCC has been given certain instructions on how to deal with this. And at the operational level, of course, the Chief of Defense Staff has been working with the service chiefs, and the recommendations they've made to the council are already being handled.
Now, almost at the same time, governors of the 17 southern states of Nigeria met in Asaba, Delta State, and resolved to ban open grazing in their states, while also calling for the convocation of a national dialogue to address the security issues and to restructure Nigeria.
The forum observed that the incursion of armed herders, criminals and bandits in the southern part of the country has presented a severe security challenge such that citizens are not able to live their normal lives, including pursuing various productive activities, leading to a threat to food supply and general security. Consequently, the meeting resolved that open grazing of cattle be banned across southern Nigeria. The meeting recommended that in view of the widespread agitation among our various peoples for greater inclusiveness in existing governance arrangement, the federal government should convoke a national dialogue as a matter of urgency.
The big question is, how are these two developments likely to impact the security situation in the Southeast and the South-South? This we shall try to unravel on the program today. Join us after now. Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's get to meet our guest analysts who are joining us right here in the studio and also joining us virtually via Skype. First, here in the studio, we have Mr. James Sagbama. Mr. Sagbama is the Chairman and Chief Operating Officer or Chief Executive Officer of Zix Security, as a security firm right here in the nation's capital. He is also a retired Assistant Director, Monetary Policy Department in the Central Bank of Nigeria. Mr. James Sagbama, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Also joining us virtually via Skype is Dr. Ferdinand Ikwang. Dr. Ikwang is a psychology operations specialist, an arm of entire security architecture, as it were. Dr. Ikwang, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mario.
Great, welcome. Right, Dr. Kwang, let me begin with you. Let's go with the very basics. The rising attacks of security formations, security personnel, destruction of security hardware and what have you, the looting of police armory in the South-South and the Southeast regions of Nigeria. In fact, just last night or 2 days ago, there was yet another one, this time in Abia State. And as it were, hardly a day goes by now without stories of one police station being attacked, being burnt down, or police personnel being killed in those parts of the country. What do you think is happening here?
Well, thank you. I think we have seen that the situation is getting really out of hand. Or as I would say, it has gotten out of hand already. And it's very worrisome to everybody. Every right-thinking Nigerian should be worried about what is going on so far. Both lives of the civilians, of the security personnel that have been affected, it's worrisome. I think it's time we really rejig and look at things critically. To roll back, to ask the question, what is actually happening? Because a name has been given to the people who are manning the attacks, unknown gunmen, before a lot of names was being bandied around. Do we actually know the people that are carrying out these attacks, and what are the intention? And I just want to say, well, let's put it this way: it has become a very worrisome thing that we are not hearing solutions. We are hearing how to counter-attack, but we are not hearing solutions. What are the root causes? How do we mitigate against what is coming? Because whenever you see this kind of approach, that people start going after security personnel, trying to get their weapons from buoyancy, and it will come. It is not a question of whether it is coming, it will come, because that is a build-up of it.
When you say, and everyone says that it's unknown gunmen that are actually perpetrating this, I mean, it doesn't point a finger at anyone. But from what you as a security specialist and expert may know, where do you think this is coming from? Is it external from the two regions, or is it internal in those two regions?
Well, I think it's internal. I don't see anybody. I mean, what would be the motive of somebody externally coming in to do what is happening there? I think the level of discontent in the society, the level of discontent has been deep-seated for a long while, and it is now burning up to shore. I think we should roll back first and ask ourselves, how did we get here? But immediately try to stop what is going on so that we can get answers. I feel it is time we start looking for solutions rather than trying to point fingers. It is deep-seated discontent, and I don't think it is coming from anywhere external. I think it is internal. The people who are carrying out this attack, they are very specific. And if you notice, there's little or no civilian casualties from their side. So they are very specific at who and what they are attacking. And their intention is very clear.
Mr. Sagbama, do you think along those same lines of Dr. Ekwang that this is internal and that there are no external forces that are probably perpetrating this or provoking this?
Well, from the discussions I've had over the time as a security man, shows that it is truly internal. But however, the external element outside the region is playing a role.
What role do you think that?
The role they are playing is to sponsor and to create that confusion within that region. And the confusion they have created has severe implications, not only on the people, in fact, their economy in that place. So the external component of it, people are playing, sponsoring, supporting, doing all manners of things. And this does not augur well for a nation like Nigeria.
So when you say that the external forces are sponsoring, what would be their end game? What would be the motive and the outcomes that they will be seeking?
That is the first question I asked. What is the objective that they want to achieve? For everything a human being goes to do, you must first ask yourself, what do I achieve from this? It's not just getting up and start fighting. Doesn't make sense. You must have an objective in mind. What do I want to achieve? If what you want to achieve, there's been injustice, there's been unfairness, there's been this, there's been that, then the next question will be, where is the appropriate place for you to achieve these things? Will going about and then destroying properties, killing of human beings, will it solve the problem? The answer is no. Because it will continue to perpetuate. And if it continues to perpetuate, then the solutions are somewhere hidden so nobody is looking for it. So actually, there is need for the government to sit and say, what exactly is the problem of these people? How can we harvest these ideas and then solve the problem. Because anywhere in Nigeria that these things are happening to, it's happening to all parts of Nigeria, which means you can't go there. If you have business there, sorry, you have to close that business. So many other people will close their business and leave that region. So if it happens to one, it's happening to all. And if it's happening to all, then let's find the solution. Let's find the nature of the problem so that we can solve it. And I accept the argument of a roundtable discussion, which is a dialogue. Let's know what it is. Because the rumors are too much. This one will say this, that one will say that. But when there is a think tank that goes into it to investigate and know exactly what is the problem, we bring out all the points out and then we resolve the matters.
Dr. Ekwang, let us push a little bit further this theory of internal discontent, pushing people into doing what they are doing in those two regions for now, for instance. Now, at the end of it all, what do you think that those who are carrying out these attacks really want? I mean, are they not playing into the hands of perhaps what Mr. Sagbama describes as the external sponsors by helping to destroy infrastructure and government confidence in these regions?
Well, let me put it this way. When you call the structures you're calling your internal structure, I think people should focus and notice that they are not going after any of the state internal structure. They are going after federal structures in their domain. And if federal structures are not serving you well, then in the first place, these people are discontented. There is a reason why they are doing what they are doing. And until we sit down and ask the questions, then we will not be able to find out why they are doing what they are doing. But if you notice, I haven't seen them go to any of these, even the state government-owned property. They are after federal government-owned property. If you look critically at what is going on, they are not hitting anything state. They are all federal properties, federal infrastructure in their location. And as for business, well, you would not see any youth who is engaged, somebody working in a bank, going out to go and carry an AK-47 to go or explosive to go and destroy anywhere. Those people who are doing these things are not employed in the first place. They do not have a source of income. And they have all the time in the world to engage in criminality if they so want to. So for me, I think we should roll back, sit back, have a negotiation. Whenever people come up to say, let us negotiate, let us talk, they seem to think that negotiation is a sign of weakness. Negotiation is a sign of strength. And it has been applied in so many places. I give you a typical example. If a man holds a pistol and another one holds an AK-47, they may not be pointing those things at themselves, but that is also a form of negotiation. If you have 10 men and I have 20 men, it is also a form of negotiation. What are you bringing to the table? Let's sit down, let's talk. Now, if you say they are playing into the hands of anybody, these people have already shown their resolve to fight, to destroy. Who exactly are you bringing in? We are talking about the military now, to send the military to that zone. Then we are going to escalate what is already on ground. You say, now the government have shown its hands, the unknown government have shown their hands. Let us now roll back and start asking the questions. Let's sit on the table, negotiate. Let us discuss what is the problem. If we haven't learned a lesson from what is happening in the Northeast, then we will not learn the lessons going forward. But I think we have learned the lessons. And I also want to say I applaud the response from the federal government so far. They have shown enough restraint in what is going on. But this is affecting the lives and property of people who are living in those zones. So I think it is time that we all sit back, sit down, and negotiate. Let us come up with a plan that provides solution to these insecurity issues, rather than try to well, you've destroyed, let's get the army to come and hit you. I mean, that only escalates problems.
Dr. Kwang, I'm a bit worried because the reports that we seem to be getting from those parts of the country indicates that with the constant attacks on security infrastructure, security personnel, looting of armory and the rest of it, that even now you don't find police checkpoints anywhere in most parts of the Southeast and South-South. You do not even find or policemen and women are afraid to put on their uniforms in the open and all of that. And my worry is this: doesn't that make those regions very vulnerable to any forms of attacks from other forces that may be even outside of the ones that are carrying out these attacks on the policemen, even criminals?
I believe what you're trying to say is attacks by criminals.
Yes.
Well, whenever you see something like this going on, it actually points to insurgency, the beginning of insurgency, not the beginning of criminality. And any criminal who is very smart would behave themselves, because these guys will not just be out there on the road trying to send a message, because this is a very clear message. Civilian casualties is being brought down to plus or minus 1 or 0 from their side. And they are focusing on federal government infrastructure, and that should tell anybody who cares to listen without hearing, should listen, that this is the beginning of an insurgency that will be very, very big. These guys are they are professionals in execution, in what they are trying to do. They are doing it professionally, because there is nothing, if they were amateurs, they would be going after things that will kill both civilian and federal troops or federal officers. But they are just going after federal infrastructure. Now, let me also point something out. When the militancy was hot in the zone, it was hot, the South-South, you notice that criminals stayed away from the streets. The criminals also know a criminal goes out and wants to go and rob. He wants to steal and go back home with it. They know that these guys have a plan. And if they were to disrupt their plan, because they're also thinking along the line that you are thinking and I'm thinking, if the criminals come in and take over now, that gives the federal government the reason to come in there in full force. So they themselves will ensure that any criminal who comes out will get it very hot. But be that as it may, if you focus and you look, you will notice that these are attacks that are well planned and well executed. I have seen a couple of the videos, and I see the way they cordon off the streets, and the civilians are walking around, but they are not touching the civilians, and they go straight to the police stations. And in any case, I would say it again, this is the beginning of an insurgency that is coming.
Can I say something?
Yes, Mr. Sagbama.
Yes. My worry is this. When the internal people are targeting federal structures, one thing we have to remember is this. Those are the structures that have been made available to that region. And so if you destroy those structures, you don't have them again. You are rather destroying those things that you're supposed to rely on. And if you are destroying them, you now create a situation that you make yourself vulnerable in the event of any need for the federal government to come in. Vulnerable in the sense that the structure that existed there or are existing there have not been paralyzed. And the moment they are paralyzed, hoodlums, armed robbers, thieves now find it easier to move and do, like you said, all the roadblocks have been removed. And if they have been removed because they are worrying that at the sight of a policeman, they will just shoot. They will not want to ask whether this man is innocent. This man has no idea of what is happening. They will just shoot and kill. And if you shoot and kill, you are killing innocent and shedding innocent blood. So my worry is that you are rather rendering that region more incapable to do certain things they ought to do. And who is going to pay for them when the destruction is done? It is the same federal government. So I would have preferred a situation where we look for a dialogue rather than destroying properties so that we can still maintain those properties and have them for our use.
Where is this dialogue going to come from? I ask that question against the backdrop of the fact that for so long, different segments of the Nigerian society have been calling for one form of dialogue or the other. And only on Tuesday here, governors of the 17 governors of the southern states met in Asaba and again called for another dialogue, national dialogue. But that dialogue doesn't appear to be falling on fertile ground in some parts of the country. So how is this going to happen? Where is it going to come from?
Well, at a stage like this, we have to go beyond the people who are doing these things. Some institutions have to take responsibility. The state governors of those eastern regions, they have to meet and take a stand. Yes, they have set up Ebube Agu.
Yes.
Yes. But where are they? Where are they now? Because this is when they should be out, making sure that now that the police are not on the road, they are just taking care of the interests of the common man. But they are not available now. We have had it on the pages of the newspaper. But we are not seeing their physical presence, just like the one in Western region, Amotekun. They are present everywhere and doing their job. So it's to walk the talk. I mean, it's to walk the talk, yes. They should walk the talk.
But
just a minute, I'll come to. They should walk the talk. And then their membership, that is the top level government, they should sit down. George Obiazo is doing a very fantastic job.
The president of
Ohanaeze is the president. Yeah. Fantastic job. He has been able to pacify Lagos State. No. It's not true. And the government has accepted it. So we can get people of that level, sit down, and can now have a discussion with the federal government. That this thing that is happening is not all of us are involved, but we can have a dialogue. Then with some listening ears, they will agree and say, okay, let's hold a dialogue and see how it will be. But if you are looking for a dialogue from this same set of people, you can't get it. Nobody is going to grant it.
Do you really think that Ebube Agu can take the place of what I would call now a frightened Nigeria police in the southeast?
Well, not that they would take the place of it totally, but at least they will minimize the impact of destruction that will take place in that region. Because the police have been well trained over the years. They are not well, but the people have to start training. They have to do a lot of things. And they have to learn a lot of things, a lot of tactics, a lot of intelligence gathering, a lot of issues, which they, maybe by the time they start doing that, it will take them some time to be able to catch up with these issues. So Ibiagu may not do as much now, but their physical presence, because the physical presence of a security man is a threat to robbers or thieves. Don't they see it, the security man is around here. And they start becoming more cautious in whatever they do.
Dr. Ekwang, let me also bring you into this discussion about Ebube Agu. Since it was set up, it doesn't appear that, or since the pronouncement by the governors, it doesn't appear that they have been very active on the streets of the southeastern states, just like what we see in the southwest where Amotekun seems to be very active. What do you think is the problem here? And can Ebube Agu really measure up to the huge responsibilities that have been placed on his shoulders?
Well, they are a new force, and it will take time for them to be deployed properly into the field. I'm not even sure that they are trained to the point that they can effectively deploy. So all they will have to do now is just maybe perform security duties until they get that level of training. Amotekun has been out in the field for a long time. They would have gathered a lot of experiences. We have to give Ebube Agu time for them to deploy properly, operationally. I'm not even sure that they have the relevant laws that are backing them as they come out. But for now, let's not put Ebube Agu as a force in between the unknown gunmen and the people. For now, let's just say Bugaragu will serve like a deterrent for now, a show of force. Not necessarily that they can, at this point, go after this unknown government for now.
All right, be that as it may. Now, there are suggestions. There have been suggestions from different quarters. In fact, like I said at the beginning, there was the Southern Governors meeting in Asaba, almost at the same time as the National Council of Security Council was meeting here in the nation's capital. And the outcomes of those meetings, first of the Security Council, was that new security measures specifically designed for these two regions are going to be put in place or are being put in place. Those were not made public. But of course, the governors of the southern states seem to know exactly what they want. And they have put out a number of issues that need to be put on the table, discussed, and implemented according to them to reduce the tension, secure the country, and eventually reform our federation and our democratic system. Let's look at these two positions.
Well, the first thing first is to diffuse that that situation that is cropping up in the southeast and part of the south-south. I think for me, I think the first thing first, we should hear from the Commander-in-Chief. Let him come out as a father and speak to people. Sheath your swords, and we are going to make sure that everything is okay. And that in itself will pour a lot of water on this fire that is coming on, first of all. But there is always a catalyst that brings people to the table. And if this particular level of uprising we are seeing in the southeast and the south-south, part of the south-south, is the catalyst that will bring our leaders to the table, it will be a good thing. I'm not saying that I support what is going on in the southeast and the south-south. I'm saying that this should be the catalyst that will bring everybody now to the table to sit down to talk. Saying that you will find a solution is one thing. Saying that you have found a solution is another thing. The tactical deployment of solution in the field is where you see it in action. Because at the policy level, you can sit down and discuss and say whatever you want to say. Well, designing that strategy becomes another thing entirely. And then going down to the operationalizing that particular strategy that you've designed is a different thing entirely. And then the tactical deployment of that particular strategy on the ground to prefer that solution that you're talking about is not something you wake up and do in 1 week. But I still say, first thing first, let us douse the tension. And to douse that tension, believe me, the only person for now at the top who could be able to do this as easily as possible is the President and the Commander-in-Chief. The next level will be the same governors who sat down to make all those pronouncements. Let them come up as a group again to tell the people to the left and to the right to sheath their swords, that they are going to implement the solutions that they have called out. They have said they have solutions, yes. How are you going to implement them in the field? Let them also be the second strata that will talk to the people. Now, people need assurances. I think we are trying to lump the entire thing together. What is happening in the southeast and the part of the south-south is the beginning of an insurgency. Let us not confuse that with criminality. Those are two different things entirely. I have said that these people are very, very professional in what they're doing. It takes a real professional to be able to attack a facility without loss of civilian lives. And for all the attempts, all the attacks, and all the ones that have succeeded and the ones that they have been repelled, check the number of civilian casualties, and it will tell you a story, clear story of who these people are and where they are headed. If they were doing bombing civilian places, markets, square, and all of that, you say they are terrorists. And that is an aspect of terrorism. This is not an aspect of terrorism. This is a specific targeted attack. And it tells a story. So let's not mix the two together. Now, the only thing that will save, or maybe say diffuse this particular situation or douse the tension on both sides, is just dialogue. Somebody needs to talk, and that person needs to have enough backing to say what they need to say. Hold on, we have heard you, we are going to take charge, and we are going to do something about it. Then we can now look at the analysis on the ground and what we need to do in order to go to this point, to that point. I'm trying to be very circumspect, so I don't say what I shouldn't say on national TV. But I would love to, the viewers, those who are listening, to understand that more needs to be done. We are the people. We are the ones who put people in the National Assembly. We are the ones who voted the president into where he is, and he appointed the people he has appointed. The people also need to rise up and speak out. Because if you don't, when the conflict really comes, I've never seen a bullet that discriminates. It doesn't. So right now, we need to stem the tide of what is coming and sit down and dialogue.
Dialogue, and dousing of tensions preparing to dialogue. But what do you do in a situation where it appears that the people themselves have lost confidence and trust in governments at every level?
Well, I don't think where the confidence is lost, put it back. The way to defeat a man without fear is to put fear in the man and defeat him. You know, the way to deal with a man who fears no death is to put death in him and then do what you need to do. So if you say we've lost confidence, so there was confidence there before it was lost. Now you have to put back the confidence by building it and then approaching the people. The people will have confidence again. The people will have hope again if that confidence is restored. Now, violence is the language of the unheard. If you refuse to listen to people, the only thing they know how to do will be to resort to violence. The only time people do not resort to violence is when you hear them, when they speak and you listen. When you refuse to listen, they resort to violence. And this is where we should be. It's not a question of losing confidence. It's not everybody that has lost confidence in the government. There are people who still think that the government is doing the right thing. There are people who will never see whatever the government does as good. So the government itself needs to now build up that confidence back into the people.
Okay.
Look, those of us who know what is coming, we feel sad that it's being treated as if it's a joke. This is not a joke. And those who are sitting in their houses and being protected by the security personnel that the taxpayers are paying for, when this happens, the security personnel who are protecting you would have to go and protect their own families.
That's correct.
And you will realize what it feels like to be alone. So we don't have to treat this with kids' gloves. If I see criminality, I would say it is criminality. But I'm not seeing criminality in any of these things. There's no criminal element in it. It is insurgency that is starting, and it is building up. They're building up confidence. And believe me, the territory that they are going after is where the jugular of the government is. And once those territories, they are taken over by this particular hostility that is coming up, then the government at the center and at all levels will suffer first before they will now regroup.
All right, Mr. Sagbama,
Yes.
he has put a lot of things on the table.
Yes.
We need to douse tension, come to the table for dialogue, which is also what you are advocating.
That's right.
But the problem is that there are certain groups and elements in society today who do not even want to see eye to eye with government at all, who seem to have lost all confidence in government. And that's why they are taking things into their own hands.
That's right.
How do we regain that? How does government regain that confidence?
Well, for government to regain the confidence, they must be transparent in everything they do. Transparency is a major issue. For instance, the NSA should have taken that advantage when it was addressing this thing. What are the measures that have been created for the Southeast? Open up them. The government have decided that this, so that the people cannot look
But there are
into
probably
it.
security measures which cannot be discussed
No,
openly.
there are certain things, some strategies you cannot. But the basic issues of mentioning them, those are not harmful. Oh, we'll do this, we'll do that. But the strategy of going into it is a different thing.
So they are creating, they appear to be creating more doubt.
Yes, because if they had opened up, we have created these measures for this group of people. And then people will start chewing them. They will start understanding them. They start appreciating the government is concerned about us. But currently everybody is in the dark, waiting for when government will say this. And if you wait, the longer you wait, the longer the aspiration. In fact, by the time you say it, it has no value again. That's the truth. There are certain basic things like security, you can keep those ones. But the terms of what to say, you can say them. And then people will now understand the government has a good intent. And if the government has a good intent, they relax themselves. And then when I'm not talking of, let's have a dialogue, like I said, there are prominent people in the East that are very close to the presidency, very, very close. It's a question of organizing themselves, get the presidency to listen to them. And then I'm sure the president will listen to them. And the dialogue will take place so that we can neutralize that insurgency. I agree with him to an extent. Because the hoodlums, the armed robbers, the kidnappers are taking advantage of the situation on ground to do their own. Because they've been given the latitude to move around, no policemen on the road, and every other thing. So they are taking advantage of it. So the earlier we act, the failure to act on time is a big problem to us. When Boko Haram started, we failed to act on time. We are aware that people knew about these things. But we did, okay, like recently it was announced that those who sponsored in UAE and all the other places, and then some even through the Bureau de Change and the rest of it. Nobody has had anything. We are waiting to hear who and who is involved. Name and shame. Name and shame.
Well, they keep telling us over 400 people are going to be tried in special cause, and that has been on the cards for so long.
That is where
no trial is going on.
Nobody knows who is involved.
Yes.
Sometimes somebody will just release one name, and then the person is battling to save his name. No, I don't know anything about it. I have never been linked. Open up the can of worms. Let us see it, and let us discuss it, so that from there we can have solutions. But we keep it to ourselves, waiting for when to bring it out, it may be too late.
So for my two analysts, dialogue is still, in the final analysis, is going to be the solution. And we must make room for dialogue. We must make room for dialogue. For a more united and cohesive Nigeria, there must be some form of dialogue. Whatever it is, dialogue. Even when people go to war, they still come back to the table to dialogue and resolve issues at the table. Thank you so much, Dr. Ferdinand Ikwang. He is a psychology operations specialist. Thank you so much for finding time to join us. And of course, Mr. James Sagbama, Chairman, CEO of Zix Security, a retired Assistant Director, Monetary Policy Department in the Central Bank of Nigeria, who after retirement has now gone into the security sector. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Dr. Ikwang, thank you so much for your time. And for our viewers here, we want to thank you immensely for investing your time with us. We'll see you again when we bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power. I am Imoni Amarere. Bye for now.